guys. First of all, thank you for making it all over to Belgrade and to work with our students here. But and there is really all sort of issues I'd like to explore with you, and I'd like to start with what does it take and what does it mean in terms of duties and responsibilities to be a chair of the department at Berklee College of Music.
Wow.
Throwing us a hard ball.
Right, the first question. Well, I'll tell you, it's a multi-dimensional job. Chairs at Berklee are responsible for many things. Of course, we're responsible for our faculty. We're the primary liaison between the students, faculty, and the upper administration. But I could say that in my job, I'm responsible for hiring and staffing and the faculty piece. The global macro view of all the curricula that happens in the department. So we're working in education committees with our faculty to develop and revise and move forward curricula. And then there's the budgetary piece, because we also manage many facilities, many recording studios, so the fiscal planning and responsibility at the end of the day for all of the finance that happens in the department. So those are just three broad areas, and they're all very different, and your management skills of each are required slightly differently. But it is never a dull job, and of course we also teach. So we're in the classroom teaching certain subjects during the year, and that helps maintain an empathy with your clients, your students, and understanding where they're coming from.
So it gives you enough time, it leaves you with enough time to keep in contact with the students and to be there to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be connected to the students in that way in the classroom. And you know, Michael, you're a faculty member that you know, had been a revered faculty member in your department before you became the chair.
Right. And so this is new for me, and so I'm learning the ropes. But I think one of the things is more important to think about how we relate with the faculty and upper administration. I think the challenge for me is to be able to frame how do I clearly communicate to the faculty what's going on upstairs, and how do I bring what my faculty are thinking to the upper administration. So it's kind of a clearinghouse for information, just to make sure everybody understands what's going on. And I think the teaching piece of it, the one course I'm teaching now is a course that's under revision. So I think as I'm looking forward, the places where I'm going to be teaching are going to be the hot spots. I want to be in the middle of a course that's in flux, and I want to kind of make sure that I'm involved in all the considerations on how things will go forward with that course. So you know, for my first year or two, I have a couple things that I've been passionate about, a couple things that need addressing in the curriculum, basically how we deal with sound design and synthesizers and rethinking that piece. So, so as a chair, you know, for me to be in the position to actually make some decisions, but also to kind of be in the field where those decisions are being kind of hashed out and implemented, I think it's really, really important to kind of be connected that way.
That's not an insignificant piece. You're right. The connection between what we do in academia and the industry, that liaison is very, very important. And of course, in the technology area, our industry is changing rapidly and constantly. So if we're not engaged in the world and going to conferences and visiting studios and visiting alumni out in the world and seeing how the business of the business gets done, then there's no way to inform the work that we need to do in school to prepare the next generation of students to succeed.
So it takes a lot of scheduling and a lot of organization to manage to keep the personal life aside of all these duties you have here, and you both have families. So I think I'd say it takes a lot of effort to be on top in both of these spheres.
I would agree.
So would our spouses.
Yeah. And here we are in Belgrade.
So tell me, you both come from from the industry, you were engaged in what you do and what you're teaching. So how one decides to get into the teaching? How does that happen? How did that work out? And are you happy with what it turned out to be, like both with you, Michael, and with you, Rob? You worked at A&M Studios. You have bands still going on. You're an active guitar player. So what happens when you decide to start teaching? We have a saying here that it's not the knowledge to have a knowledge, but to know how to share the knowledge. That's what the knowledge is. And if you only have a knowledge and you're not capable of sharing it, then you don't really know
You don't
enough.
really possess it, yeah.
Yeah. So
What's that transition like?
Can you tell me something about that?
Well, I think for me, my transition was slow and gradual. I always made my living as a freelancer, both as a musician, as an engineer, producer, having a project studio. As a freelancer, you always pick up the phone and just say yes. And it gets to the point in your life where you start having a family, and the idea of having 16, 18, 20-hour days, six days a week, just is not what you want to be doing with your life. And so I think I had always been teaching. Even as an active working guitar player, I always had guitar students. I had opportunities to teach in adjunct positions before I came to Berklee in 1995, and so when I had the opportunity to get into Berklee, it was a really good fit for my school, for my skill set, and it was also a good time in my life to start exploring that avenue. So I started as a very adjunct faculty member in 1995. I became full-time, I think, 2002, and then in 10 years later, I became a department chair. So it's been a very slow evolution for me. It's probably been a good thing that I've taken my time to get to where I am now. I've had a lot of time to learn stuff. So,
right. I had no intention to be involved in academics. There was never a plan. If you told me 20 years ago that this is where I'd be and what I'd be doing, I wouldn't have believed you. As you say, I was working in the industry. I had been a staff engineer in Hollywood at A&M Studios, and had a tremendous professional career going. But for personal reasons, after many years, we wanted to start a family, and obviously people do in Los Angeles, but our families are on the East Coast in the Boston area. We just decided after the big earthquake, the Northridge earthquake in 1994, that hanging out with Bruce Springsteen and James Brown and members of the Rolling Stones was an amazing professional experience. But if you want to have children in Los Angeles, it means putting your yet unconceived child on a wait list to get into a private kindergarten alongside Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. And what's the reality of that? So really, for purely personal reasons, at the height of my career, we just packed the van and left. And
Did you have an idea of what you were going to do in Boston, on the East Coast at that moment?
That's interesting. The internet thing was really starting to come on in the early stages. This was in, we started considering this in about 93 or 94, and then the earthquake happened in 94, and we finally left at the end of that year. But the internet was really coming on in a big way, and I started getting into Unix programming, and I knew that if I could command the language of this new emerging area, that there's probably some work, involved. And I made a proposal to GRP Records that I thought that the future might be that we could be in distant places and pull files out of the, from servers, and we could do string sessions in Los Angeles with assets that we gathered somewhere else. And I made this long written proposal, and nobody understood what I was talking about. It was absolutely, no one could get their mind around it. No one saw the value of a website. The Mosaic browser had just come out. The web was just really beginning to be in public hands. And some friends that I had made were in fact really staking out a claim in the early internet era. And some in fact became those 36-year-old retired .com millionaires by developing some very cool applications. But I soon found that I didn't have the same passion for coding and doing internet work as I did recording a vocal with Joe Cocker. So I did have a somewhat of a plan to maybe transition from my 20-hour days, my 16-hour days, 6 days a week, working in the studio, where I never really saw my wife. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is another avenue I can parlay. But that was the seed of a plan. but I didn't have a full-formed plan. So we moved back east, and when I got back, I visited some colleagues, some friends of mine I knew at Berkeley. Berkeley's my alma mater. I had gone there myself in the late 70s, and they said, wow, if you're back on the East Coast, maybe you should do some teaching. And I've always had a bit of an extroverted, part of my nature, and I do like to teach in the regard that in studios I would mentor my assistants. I was always happy to answer the questions about, hey, why do you use this mic and where do you put it? So that part was sort of natural for me, and when I was given the opportunity to do some teaching, I said, wow, I never considered this, but I kind of like it. It's like doing a performance set, for an hour and 50 minutes, and you get the set better, and your audience enjoys it. So I did teach for 2 years and then became assistant chair in 1997 and took over as chair in 2000. So it's been, in academia, a relatively rapid ascension to administration, but certainly a rewarding one.
That's really great. So, I mean, you've been in business for like a couple of decades, 30 years or more, and I've seen you here both with students and in this informal parts. And what I can feel is a lot of energy, a lot of good attitude, positive stuff, great motivation. What does it take? What is that keeps this enthusiasm and motivation being like on top level in the peak after all these professional years? Like, I mean, you kept being a guitarist, you didn't quit that, and now you're a chair. So you're developing always where you are involved. And where do you take this attitude from, and is it possible to transmit that to students?
I think we were talking about this earlier. There's a certain aspect of being obsessed. And I think, being obsessed, being curious, and having a healthy fear of boredom. I think for me, I need stimulation. I need stuff. Sometimes that comes from within. Sometimes I need external input for that. Just getting ready for what we were doing, I just put the headphones on, like listening to the tracks that he's making. I'm in another world. I'm counting out the time. I'm just, trying to imagine. And I just get lost. I mean, I've always been like that. And, those are the parts that from day to day, those are my goalposts. At what point in my day do I get lost and become obsessed in my work? And at what point in my day do I, have dinner? At what point in my day do I go to a meeting? So I think, I've always lived my life like that. And I've really, it's been tremendously rewarding to be able to kind of have the latitude to follow your muse to a certain extent, and as Rob says, to share that. And I think, an effective teacher to me is somebody who can kind of transmit their enthusiasm about what they're doing. Part of that has to be you have to be enthusiastic about life. I get up in the morning and I'm totally psyched to get up in the morning. I can't wait to get out of bed. I get up at 5 o'clock because I'm so psyched to get up. And, I think that's, it's a way of life. And, I think effective teachers, effective colleagues, you have that. And so I gravitate towards those people, and I've learned from those people. And hopefully, my life as an artist, as a musician, and as a human being improves.
Yeah, I would agree that we're lucky to have found a subject or a realm that you can't wait to do every day. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night, I know this sounds weird, thinking about my session the next day. Oh yeah, I want to try this, there's a new technique, and I'm excited to meet this musician. I love what I do, and I happen to get paid for it, so it's like a double bonus. It's amazing, and not everyone who has a career can say that. But for me, what also keeps me moving forward is that when we get to work, and at Berkeley we're fortunate that we do, with visiting artists and luminaries, icons of our industry, and you see how hard they work, and you see what they've done to achieve a career that they have, you got to get up pretty early in the morning and keep pushing every single day. And have a long day, and be focused and be humble of your abilities to achieve those levels, because the greats in our culture have not done so by accident. They've done it because they were both talented and passionate, but they put in the work every single day. So I know if I'm representing an area of Berkeley, and an important one, And just for my own personal pride, that if I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with some of these people, I have to keep pushing every day. So I don't take any of this for granted, and there's a lot more to learn, and there's a lot more to achieve.
So it never stops.
Never.
It never stops.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. Particularly for you guys dealing with technology, it's like changing every second, and you have to work hard to keep the track on what's new, what's going on,
Right.
and in what's new, what's good, and what's so and so, and it takes a lot of time. But being a successful professional aside, I learned that you are pretty successful parents. So I'm curious. There is a huge difference in teaching someone else's kids and teaching dealing with your own kids. So how do you make the balance in between a guide, a parent guide, and professional guide, to put them on the right track and to do that?
That's a tough one, and it's been the hardest teaching job I've ever had, is being a father, and I have no clue.
There's no manual.
There's no manual. When we had a child, the thing I would say that my in-laws should raise the child. They're grandparents. They know about raising children. We know nothing about children. We have no business doing this. But I think for my son, I'm his fan. And I think it's good to know when you're growing up that your father's your fan. And I can't lecture him. I remember very early on, when he was in maybe first grade, he started playing the guitar, and I couldn't show him anything. He just, I'm going to do it myself. But he grew up watching me play. He grew up watching me do things, and I think, my only hope is that he watches the good, positive things that I do and picks up my good habits, and knows that I'm his fan, and that he's got his eyes shut when I'm kind of not functioning on the highest levels. So, it's tough when you're in the classroom. I think we were talking about this earlier. It's you're on stage. You have your makeup and everything's scripted, and you can be an awesome teacher.
And you're in control.
And you're in control. And when you're in your own house, it's kind of like it's a
Not
pretty
so much.
it's a chaotic thing that you have no control over the family dynamic,
Yeah.
and you're always getting thrown curveballs. So.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I think it's important to compartmentalize your personal life and your professional life, because in that realm of obsession for what you do, I do know many famous Grammy-winning producers and engineers that are on their multiple marriages and families because being obsessed in your profession was at the expense of one's personal life. And I've been married for 22 years and feel that that's a great success, and have 3 kids, and I value that portion of my existence, and I need to keep that squarely in focus. But I like what you said about being your kid's fan and leading by example. Transmitting that enthusiasm for what you do, I think, is helpful, because they see, wow, Dad seems to be pretty happy, and we have a nice house, and he loves what he does, and it doesn't seem like work when he goes to work, and maybe there's something for me out there in the world. So, leading by example and just being honest, being honest with what works, and that is the same lesson in the classroom, because students can smell when you're not being straight with them, and they can smell when you're not in command of the facts and you're bluffing too. So it's being grounded in what you know, and being honest when you don't know something, both with your kids and with your students. So there's commonalities in some of it, but I definitely like to separate church and state, and business is business, and family time is my time.
That's great. Getting back to the students, and you both traveled and met students around the world, and with all different cultures and different technology development areas and all this stuff, I guess there might be something in common for the successful professionals, for the successful students in all these different areas. Could you draw what that might be, the common ground for successful youngsters or professionals in different cultures?
Well, I certainly think that there's a commonality. We've had the good fortune to travel to many reaches of the world, from Central and South America to East Asia and now to Eastern Europe. And the thing I find everywhere is that the people who attend the kind of events that we produce are interested. They're curious. You know, they want to know more. They want to push forward. And regardless of their economic situation or their cultural situation or the tools that they have, I've always been highly impressed by the creative work that they do. And I'm also curious. I want to know what kind of regional ethnic music is made here. What is the scene in Belgrade? What is the scene in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia? And so it's a two-directional thing that I feed off of that. But the student profile I find is that they're engaged and they're making the most of the resources that they have. And I always find that the students are thankful that you made the trip and that you came to them and that we get to spend some time together. And that's highly gratifying. But I don't really find a lot of difference aside from the regional aspects in the general profile. And it's very similar to our own Berkeley population. If you're drawn to the arts and you're drawn to this way of life and expression through music, and in our case music plus technology, then that's a certain profile to begin with. And there's a lot of common ground all over the world with this, and that's actually very interesting. I like that.
I don't have nearly the experience that Rob does, but one thing I might comment on, I never see that there's a direct correlation between the means that a student has and their potential for success. So I think a student who has a laptop with an interface and that's all they have to record with and that's all they have to learn from can be as motivated and potentially as successful as a student who has a well-heeled educational environment to learn in. I think it's what's inside somebody that develops during that educational process that kind of pushes them out. So every once in a while you might hear a student say, well, if our school had this, then I would be better. And I guess my message would be it's not about the school and what they have, it's about the experience that you're going through and how to kind of really milk that.
Your imagination.
Yeah, it's your imagination. Your imagination can get stoked with one good mic as much as it can with a fully stocked cabinet. So I think, that's one thing I think for all students to kind of keep in mind, that, the facilities they have, it's a really big part of it, but you can't let what you have or you don't have kind of get in the way of your muse, your passion.
Right. Well, I protest when students say, oh, man, if I only had version 2.7, then I could have done this thing. And it's sort of like an excuse why they couldn't achieve, the great idea. And then you go to some far-flung part of the world, and with a tin can and a string, someone has produced some amazingly passionate work. And you go, wow, good on you. You didn't let this obstacle get in your way. You had a wild imagination for expression, and you did it. So that's what I admire.
It's about the passion, finding the way, having something within yourself which you kind of need to express and share with the others.
Yeah, and that said, though, in our jobs, and I'm going to study with Rob on this, you have to be ready to go to the table and be passionate tooth and nail to get every last single resource you can for your students. Even though we can say that, it's about for us bringing home whatever the best we can bring for our students.
Well, that's also because our other responsibility is to constantly be showing them where the professional paradigm lives. Right. And that by definition is the cutting edge in our world of technology. Right. And if the A-level people are doing this in Hollywood and in London, then we need to show them the same tools.
Exactly.
So there's a special requirement, I think, from our vantage point that comes into play.
You mentioned before that if you try to bluff your students for something, they will smell it. So I want you 100% honest with this. Yeah. Michael, you had the group of 20 students here, more or less, and you've been presenting software for electronic production and design. Mm-hmm. I have happened to pop into your lab for a couple of times, and I looked at the screen and I was like, oh my God, what is this? But I also noticed that they were all very, very much into it. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to hear your impression on your group. You know, like Rob had a group, he had a lot of practical work. I mean, maybe your work was also practical, but I don't understand it that way. I can't see it, you know what I mean? But this is like going on, moving physically, and like mics and everything. So, what's your impression with your group in terms of everything, all the aspects you can mention?
I think they're great. And, you know, it's funny because you talk about bluffing. You know, when you're talking about a very complicated piece of software, you know, you can't know everything. You can't know every key command. Just before we came in, I asked Rob for a key command for something. You know, none of us are an encyclopedia, and your role as a teacher is not to be that encyclopedia. And I think the first day in class, I was showing something, and somebody in the back just yelled out, "Well, there's an easier way to do it if you do this."
Right.
And so I learned something too. And
Right.
I think the whole idea of bluffing, you just, you know, when you're dealing with software, you just get over it. Because, you know, there's somebody in the class who's mangled this before,
Yeah.
and it's not that they know it, it's just that, you know, that's maybe one of the 3 things that they stumbled on.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, the students here, I thought, I've been really impressed both by their concentration, but also what they're bringing. They're very well prepared for the stuff that we're talking about. When we talked about Max programming yesterday, you know, the first 10 minutes was a little bit rough, but boy, when everybody got into it, I thought they went through the same exercises that my Berkeley students would go through, better. I thought they nailed it as a group quicker and more thoroughly than I would see in a typical class at Berkeley. So I think whatever you're doing here at the institution or whatever's in the drinking water here is working. So you know, I think the students here are great.
Taking
Yeah.
a dozen of bottles with you back.
I'm taking
Right.
yeah,
Check
absolutely.
luggage, right, exactly.
Absolutely.
I would agree. I've really admired the students that I've worked with this week. And it was funny because the week before I was in San Francisco, California for the Audio Engineering Society show, and I met one of your students 7,000 miles away, Maria, and I thought, wow, this girl came from Serbia to San Francisco, and I'm meeting her there, and she said, I'll see you next weekend in Belgrade, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. But my recording session yesterday was a long day. When the musicians hit at noon, and by the time the musicians left at nearly 8 o'clock in the evening, it was nonstop. You know, we did not break for anything. It was all hands on deck. And every time I turned around, the students were crowded in towards the speakers. They were paying attention. When there was a moment, they were asking really insightful questions. And I felt completely that they were tracking what was happening. And at no point in my explanations or my demonstrations did I feel that either they were disinterested or that they weren't getting it. You know, they asked questions when they had them, and they were engaged and they were focused. And I thought, wow, that's an impressive profile, because this is very specific stuff, and the attention span that's required over the course of many, many hours that's an intense requirement, especially for young people or for anybody, to maintain focus. And I've seen the students doing that here. I'm very impressed.
What's your benefit from this visit, both of you?
I've made new friends. I've learned some things, and I get to capture some beautiful new music, and hopefully I'll get to do more of that. And it expands the worldview. I mean, for me, when students say, well, what do I have to do to be successful? My answer is never that you need to learn Pro Tools and do all those things. I can teach anyone how to run Pro Tools. What to be successful is to be able to travel and understand art and culture and different people and languages and yes, technology too, because that's a vehicle, that's a tool for expression. But the benefit for me and the reason I like these Berkeley trips to different parts of the world is it expands my own personal horizons. And I'm a fan of the world. I love it. I want to eat new food and drink new wine and learn about people. I love people.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. I think, you know, in the United States, you know, everything that we know about Serbia comes to the television set. And, you know, to me, it's to come here to meet people, to meet students, and to kind of really hear people's stories. You know, I learned a lot when we were walking around the first day with the guide. her perspective on Belgrade, your perspective on Belgrade, and just kind of, putting all this together and making my own kind of decisions and judgments. And then I think it's important to kind of see where students are coming from, and seeing what's in common with all students and what might be a particularly, where a student in Serbia might be coming from. That might be different. Because again, I think when we go back to Boston, we see students from all over the world come into our programs. And I think, both as a teacher and I think as administrators, we really have to have that global understanding to make sure that the community that we have is a nurturing one for everybody, and to kind of facilitate the same kind of connections we can make on the road. We want to have those happening on campus as well. So for us, I think for both of us, it's a tremendous amount we take back from these trips. So, I've been humbled talking to people here in Serbia about your lives and the work that you're doing here. It's amazing to me. So I go back inspired.
If you're teenagers now, what would you do different in your professional orientation, if anything? If you had to do all over again?
I'd learn a little bit more about the business of the business, so I could avoid getting burned on those projects I got burned on. That's my one big regret. And never buy stock. I think that would be something I would learn. I don't know if I'd do it any differently. I've done it the way I've wanted to do it. I've been fortunate. I found a path that I loved, and my parents were supportive, and I pursued it fully. And even when it was an unpopular decision, I'm vindicated now, because I've achieved a lot in 30 years in the business, and I've done it on my own terms by and large. And I think that you just need to stand for what you truly believe in, and if it's not working for you, you need to change it. And so I wouldn't do it any differently. I love where I'm at.
It takes a lot of, that's a great answer to this question. Not many people would say that. It's great to be in a position to answer it that way. Michael, what about you?
It's a hard question, because, when I think what are the things I would do differently, I could throw 3 things out. But then when I stand back, I say, well, things worked out pretty well. But one thing I think earlier on, I think I would have looked for stronger, clearer mentors. I think for me, in my journey, a lot of it to me was finding my own way. And the area that I grew up in my professional experience, again, was really as a freelancer. I never worked in a studio system. I never worked where there was a lead engineer that I would be able to get mentored with. So I think if I would do things differently from my perspective now, I would have been on the lookout earlier on for musical mentors and technical mentors. And I have had some along the way, but I think this is one thing now I'm valuing more. But that said, would I go back and when I was at a crossroads and the road went that way and the road went that way, and I went that way, would I go that way this time around? Probably not. I probably would have, used certain parts of my time more efficiently. And that's the thing, if I look back, geez, I could have done this if I had gone this way. But, at the end of the day, the value that you've gotten from those side trips, you can't measure. So, at the end of the day, it's not about, what you think you could have done differently, but did you have a good trip? Did it get you to a good place? And, I'm at a really good place, and so it's hard for me to go back and say I'd do something different,
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Right.
So, would there be anything you wanted you'd like if I asked and I didn't?
That's the hard question.
Oh, that is a hard question. I don't know. We've covered a lot of really good territory. I think, what we're getting into is a lot of the good philosophy. We're here on a technology trip, but I think what we've discovered in the course of the week is that it's more about the general philosophical attitude towards making art. And it's heavily involved in the personal piece and to be able to make genuine personal connections. And it's about earning trust. And as I ducked my head into Michael's section and I watched the faces of both of Michael and his students, and I know for me, going out on the floor with the musicians yesterday and being in the room with the students, it's about opening up that door of trust. And if you do that, then we can get to another place in the conversation. And so we've been open to it, and everybody here in Serbia seems to be open to it as well, and I very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.